Hi, everyone, and welcome to In Conversations with Celiwe here at Oracle Media. It's quite cold in Joburg, but we are very grateful to actually have had this platform. We'd like to say thank you to Oracle Media and thank you to the team that has made this possible today. So my name is Celiwe, as mentioned, and we welcome you. Today, we are going to be talking about World Environment Day, which is what we are going to be celebrating tomorrow, the 5th of June. But just before we get into everything else, I have a little surprise for you. And the surprise is, let us hear what the future of tomorrow has to say about the environment. I thought this would be great to bring into the aspect in terms of bringing in the little stars who are the future of tomorrow and hear what do they think about the environment. Enjoy this video by Sandisile Coupe.
Good day. I am Celiwe, the ecosystem. We all live in the house of Earth, whose roof is the environment. We should take care of these two because our lives will be healthy and safe. Only when the Earth is green and the environment is clean. The same environment, the same Earth, and our lives will be the same. So don't waste it. Live it. Eventually, we'll realize that as we destroy the ecosystem, we also destroy ourselves. I think so.
Happy Environmental Day to everyone. And it's so amazing when you look at young people and hear what they have to say. A lot of people would think that a child like that wouldn't really understand what's happening in the world. Well, guess what? They are aware and they know that our ecosystem and our environment is who we are. And if we can take care of it, then we take care of ourselves. So this day is celebrated to encourage awareness and environmental protection. According to the United Nations, the celebration of this day provides us with an opportunity to broaden the basis of an enlightened opinion and responsible conduct by individuals, enterprises, and communities in preserving and enhancing the environment. So today is, I do not walk alone. I do have two amazing young people who are climate activists. Yes, you heard me right. They are climate activists. And they have joined us today so that we can have a heating discussion around environmental issues, looking at the theme for this year, 2021. The theme for this year for Environmental Day as given is restoration. It is restoration. And it is the ecosystem restoration. So we're going to dive into this theme, looking at ourselves as South Africans. You know, we look at our environment. How does it speak to us? What exactly are the young people up to out there when it comes to climate issues? Today, I am joined by Celiwe, Shivambu, and Taylor Booth. And as I introduce them, they are young people that are really powerful in their spaces and doing amazing things in terms of coming up with plans on how we can make South Africa a better place in terms of our environment. Just a brief bio on Celiwe Shivambu. She's an international relations honors student at the University of Wits in South Africa. She is a youth and climate change activist. Her interests are policy making, advocacy, and diplomacy. As the focal point for the climate change YPC working group at Youth Cycle, she facilitates youth engagement with national climate policies and serves as a representative to the We Are Tomorrow Global Partnership. She has been part of the youth co-authors of the Youth Climate Action Plan for the city of Johannesburg. And she was representing South African youth at the World Circular Economy Forum and Climate, hosted in Hague in the Netherlands. She was also part of the African European Youth Forum drafts team on the topic Climate Action and Renewable Energy Conference in 2020, and leading the writing process for the African peer review mechanisms on climate education and awareness rising. In between her studies, she is currently project lead for South Africa's first ever Youth Climate Action Plan at the South African Institute for International Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Celiwe. Hi, Celiwe, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Singi. Thank you so much for the introduction. That was lovely.
Welcome to In Conversations at Oracle Media. Thank you so much for joining us. I just wanted everyone to just see who you are and just get to put the profile to the face. Wow, amazing stuff that you have done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That is Celiwe. And our next speaker who has joined us today is Taylor Booth. Taylor Booth is a gender and climate activist. She was a lead drafter of the Joburg Youth Climate Action Plan and a current project lead for the South African YCAP process. Taylor attended the COP25, where she negotiated on the Lima Work Program on Gender and its Gender Action Plan. She is the current focal point for the Climate Change Youth Policy Committee. Hi, Taylor Booth.
Hi, Celiwe. Nice to meet you. I've actually got quite a lot of
nice to meet you.
experience as Celiwe, but I happened to send you my very short bio. So a lot of the things that Celiwe was talking about, I was involved into
as well. No, I totally understand. The short bio says a lot about the work that you do. You know, if as young people, this is where we are, we definitely know that there is a better tomorrow. Happy Environmental Day to you too as well, Taylor Booth. To kickstart off the conversation, I just wanna start with you, Taylor Booth. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we don't know about yourself and a little bit more about Environmental Day? I mean, what is this day? We've heard of many days, but why is this so important?
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I'm really happy to be here. So I'm kind of between studies. I'm hoping to do my master's in climate science and policy starting in September. Where right now, that's still a bit undecided, but hoping for some good news in the coming weeks. But besides that, I'm busy working on the Youth Climate Action Plan. That's the main project I'm doing at the moment. With Celiwe, we both the co-project leads with two more amazing young people. And we're heading a team of, there's about 20 people in the leadership group, the main leadership group, that are helping come up with ideas in the direction of the project. And then we also have access, or currently there's about over 200 young people registered and actively taking part in our discussions in developing this national framework of what young people actually want to see happen in South Africa. So we're still visualizing where we want to take this document. But for the past few years, how our policy engagement and our advocacy would work was through the Youth Policy Committee, where we'd see a call for submissions of some sort of policy document, see some sort of submission there, and so, or ahead of key international events such as the COP, the Conference of the Parties, COP25, COP24, or COP21, where the Paris Agreement was decided on. We'd always write a statement, a youth statement, and then hand that over, and often the Department of Environmental Affairs would make use of our statement in their lobbying at these international events. So that's kind of where we're at from our side. We've done quite a lot of policy work historically, and taking that forward, we realize it's not good to just do things as they come. We want to be prepared and have a cohesive youth voice in the country, and also united with international bodies. We're part of another partnership, as you would have heard in Celiwe's bio, the We Are Tomorrow partnership. All of us are working on creating some sort of a vision document of what we want to see our future look like. So I partners Chile and the Netherlands have finished this, and the key thing they're bringing to us is that we need to make sure our document is implementable, and we have set out goals. So that's currently what we're working on, and a little bit more of that work. But I'm sure we can share more a little bit later how you guys can get involved in the process. In terms of the theme today, so it's ecosystem restoration. So as you said, we do have all these different dates. We've got Biodiversity Day, which is one of my favorites, which is the 3rd of March. We have Earth Hour, we had in April, and then we also have Earth Day, or it was March and April. We had Earth Day, and now we have World Environment Day. So I mean, what really does make this day important? And I think it's a good day to reflect on not just one specific theme about the environment, it's everything. So there's something I like to talk about or think about when I'm talking about the environmental space and how people take action. And it's a nexus of 3 Ps. It's people, it's planet, and it's profit. How do those 3 things interact for the environment? When we're talking about ecosystem restoration and why it's so important this year is that these next 10 years have been defined by the UN as the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. From 2021 to 2030, we're supposed to ensure that this restoration happens. And when you talk restoration, well, it's kind of twofold. It's about restoring the things we already have damaged, like if we've done deforestation or there's desertification, we're mining offshore, we're doing a lot of bad things to the environment. There's even a recent example I can share with that one of the networks I'm connected to, Fossil Free SAs, currently has a petition out to call on Minister Barbara Creasy to kind of reject or remove the approval she provided for offshore drilling off Richards Bay. So oceans are also an ecosystem. But going back to what I was talking about is that when we talk about restoration, we're talking about restoring what we have done and also reversing that damage, but also stopping doing anything further. So that's why I highlighted that example, is that we're still doing the damage to our environment, and we need better policies, and that's where we come in, is we're pushing for those better policies and better science to actually stop that and investigate the effects and investigate how we can go back and reverse that damage. Another key thing is that with the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, the goal is by 2030. And now we know that that overlaps with the goal for the Sustainable Development Goals. So the Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals, as I'm sure a few people know, with 169 targets, I believe, all with different focuses. So you've got life on land, life on water, life in water, or life in the ocean. You've got biodiversity. Then you've also got the people side of it, what I mentioned earlier, and the poverty alleviation, the gender, the education. So you've got all these different goals working together. And now those are set to be achieved by 2030. And one of those goals is also the climate goal. And if we can't achieve these SDGs along with the ecosystem restoration and the other climate change goals like we've seen in the Paris Agreement, we're really going to do more damage than we can reverse. And we're going to be living on a world that's not habitable.
No, definitely. Just listening to you speaking about climate, I can almost see the passion that comes with it. You know, it's just that sometimes when people get so busy and get tapped into their workspaces, into their passions, which are sometimes very far away from climate, we kind of forget how important climate is. No, thank you so much for that. And it seems like there is a lot of work that the young people are doing also in the background in terms of preserving the environment. I just want to tap to you, Celiwe, on this part on why is Environmental Day so important? You know, I just want you to give us a perspective in terms of this year's theme, but also looking at in the South African context. You know, different types of environments that we live in. There is certain environments where it's too congested and you can't even see even one tree, in certain spaces because of that. I just want you to tap into, what does Environmental Day mean to a country like South Africa?
Thank you so much for that question. I think I was looking at something today, if I can just quickly have a look at it, that was posted, on Twitter, and by, speaking on what, section 24 of the South African Constitution says when it speaks about, the environment. And I quote, it says that everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health. And just to unpack that a bit, and we look at, the current, case that is happening in Mpumalanga, where people are getting very sick because of the low air quality in Mpumalanga. And, an organization called Groundwork has basically taken them to court, taken the Department of Mineral Resources to court and say, hey, these people have the right to health, right? To live in an environment that is not harmful to them. This is harmful to their health. Young people are breathing on, breathing machines and are having respiratory problems because of what the department is doing and is not taking charge. And basically, it carries on and says that to have an environment that is protected, then in that situation, you can only, imagine how unhealthy, one, the air quality is already low. The people are already getting sick by the businesses and the harmful gases that the department is, planting in Mpumalanga. And that already means that that environment isn't protected, and so is the well-being and the healthcare of the people there. And it carries on and says that for the benefit of the present and future generations, through reasonable legislative and other measures that prevent pollution and ecological degradation, promote conservation and secure ecologically sustainable development and use of natural resources while promoting justifiable economic and social development. And I think what was very much important for me here is the justifiable economic and social development. A lot of people right now in South Africa, if we're going to put Environmental Day in the context of South Africa, is the fact that there's already people that are facing the impact of climate change, right? In the rural parts of South Africa, there's already been drought. We already have a water crisis in South Africa. We already have plants that are dying. We have been having a lot of cases of our animals being poached and being killed, meaning that the animal ecosystem is in danger. Plants are in danger. Trees have been taken down to build factories that endanger the people that are in those communities. Certain, plants are being made, and certain fossils are being burned around communities, meaning that all of these ecosystems, as Tyler's mentioned, life on water, life on land, they're all at risk because of one, reason. It's the government, the people, and businesses. All right. Climate change is a problem that was caused by people, and luckily for us, it's also a solution can come from those very people. So it then means that government and private businesses then have to, be held accountable by who? The people. We need to hold these people accountable and say, no, you can't take down more trees, because this is what is happening. You can't be removing, because you need to think of it also with the tourism. Animals are being moved from where they're supposed to stay, from the ecology, because, the aesthetic of wanting to build a resort and wanting to build this. So as much as there are, justifiable economic means why trees are being chopped down, then it becomes a fact that restoration then is an investment. If we take it seriously as a country, it's then an investment, And then what do? The people need to hold businesses accountable. The people need, and government as well, when it comes to how they protect the environment. And then the question comes when it's like, well, what can people do as individuals? That means planting more trees. I think people haven't they haven't we haven't raised enough awareness when it comes to the importance of having trees. the importance of keeping our oceans clean. You know, all the time when it's December, we know people are going to the ocean. And how, you know, even the ocean, I mean, life at sea, you can already imagine how dangerous human beings are. You know, they endanger species that are literally underwater. You know, that's how much, you know, they affect that. And people aren't aware of all of that, that the plastic lasts so long under sea, and it's hurting the ecology down there, you know. So it's issues like that that we need to understand that um society, our ecology as human has affected the environment, has affected plants, has affected animals, and has affected, you know, life in the oceans and on land, and then it's like there needs to be solutions, and such solutions then come as planting trees, making our cities green, cleaning the oceans, and learning how to live with nature. You know, because um, just to link this with just the domination of man to nature, you know, it shouldn't have been like that. That shouldn't have been the relationship that the men had with nature, because we both need each other to survive. So yeah, I think it's just what it means. It then means that we need to live with nature, you know, because we need it in a country like South Africa. We need to understand the importance of nature. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't understanding.
No, I totally understand you. I think I just want to tap into when you said that the environment and man is actually one thing. If you take care of the man and you take care of the environment, then there is life on earth. You know, you just made me think of the African symbol of life, the ankh, that speaks about how the earth is water, and there's like a very small percentage of everything else, but everything else is water. And you know, it's in times like this that we need to look at the perspective or the context of, okay, so the United Nations as the world, this is what we are looking at. But now, as much as we have this big theme for all of us, where we are restoring, what exactly does it mean to South Africa when you have townships and cities like Alexandra? You have places where it's very congested. There is so much that is going on. People have no electricity. They use fire, they use whatever. And more trees are being cut down because people are looking for shelter. You know, it's a big question that we pose also as young people, to say, what kind of a future do we want to live in? And how do we then educate young people about the environment? There is a bigger picture where you guys are working on policies, you guys are working on different campaigns on how you can bring awareness. But now let us tone it down a little bit and let us bring it into a home. Because when you look at it, this mandate is meant for different stakeholders. As mentioned, it's for individuals, it's for enterprises, it's for communities, it's for business people. It calls on to celebrities, it calls on to the citizens, to the general citizens. So now let us bring it into a home. How does an individual within a home educate their children, their families, on the importance of the environment? And I think I really want to throw this to you, Taylor, to ask, what do you think as individuals we can do in our own spaces, you know, in our own homes, and then we build it up into communities, into businesses, into bigger entities? How do we educate and create awareness in our own spaces?
Thank you for that. So I think in order to answer your question, I do want to go back to what I touched on earlier about the people, the planet, and the profit. And that's often something that or especially the people aspect that we come back to, is that when we're talking about people taking action on climate change, especially in the South African context, you're struggling, or people are struggling with so many issues before they can get to a point like, I want to take action on climate change. Like, I understand climate change affects me. And we kind of need to reshape that narrative, and we need to help people see that okay, the water pollution you're experiencing, okay, the health issues that Celiwe touched on in Mpumalanga, on the energy side, like you have to realize, you have to help them realize that these things are all connected and go back to climate change. But then that goes back to the thing of, well, how do you get them to care? Because if you think of what people, if that thing we're taught in life orientation in primary and high school about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you're thinking like the most important things people need is food, water, and like their health, obviously, and energy. Like you need those key three things to kind of survive. And a lot of those things are being impacted by climate change. So if we don't have those basic access to opportunities, how do you educate people that this thing matters? So I think something we're trying to do is push for climate change curriculum, but realizing that the pace of curriculum changes and policy changes in the country is still very slow. We're kind of opting that we need informal education as well. We need to reach out through channels such as this, webinars and that, but kind of take it one step further, because we also know that a lot of people in South Africa are, one, illiterate, or two, don't have access to internet, let alone some of them don't even have access to some sort of smart device that can connect to the internet. So you kind of have to rethink how we're going to reach these people and how we're going to educate people in these sorts of situations. And the one solution is, well, if we do it informally, sometimes the library or the community space is a very important space. So perhaps making materials available, but also having speakers and people chat to the community. The next challenge is, how do you get people there? So sometimes what we think about is the way you get people to educate people, get people in these sorts of situations. And one solution, sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback. When you talk, you get them there. You have the children. If you're teaching children about climate change in their school and maybe make it a task for them to go home and talk to their parents and ask their parents, what do you think? I think that's a good way to get the conversation going. But then going back to the informal education, if we look at something such as the media, local radio stations, communicating climate change and those sorts of knowledge in a language that is accessible. Because not only do we have a language, we've got 11 official languages, we also have people with varying abilities to speak, say, English or Afrikaans or Sesotho or Zulu, all those sorts of things. So if you're not being communicated these things in your language, you're not going to understand it as well as you would if it was in your mother tongue. So I think the language is the other component. Then one final thing, I think where education is key and can really bring about some sort of transformation is if we look at cultural practices and religious practices within the community. We know religion is a very big part. South Africa, although not a secular government, a lot of South Africa is made of very religious people and religious communities, and a lot of communities are brought together by that shared faith. And I think if we help community leaders or religious leaders come to the space and share knowledge, then you're reaching people much more at where they're at, and do they trust this person at who's bringing this information? Because sometimes we think it's good if we bring a scientist or like an expert to talk to people, but you don't know their lived experiences. So if you help train the person who's supposed to educate them or someone they know, I think that would reach people a lot better.
Oh, wow. You bring a very important aspect in terms of how such an issue requires a holistic approach. It requires partnership. It requires for us to work as a country. You spoke about different types of issues that South African people are facing, and how exactly do we bring them to understand that there is a problem? I think that's one of the most important things that we need to learn as well as a country and as different entities in terms of educating the community. So we do have a question. So as you know, we do have a lot of people that are watching us from different spaces. And someone is asking to say, did the lockdown in various countries make an impact at all? I'll start with you, Taylor, and then just move to Celiwe in terms of answering that question.
Great, thank you. So in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. I think people have seen like a few media accounts and a few stories. Okay, the environment's healing themselves. Fish are returning to this valley where they weren't. There's elephants going somewhere in India. We're seeing all these like nice things like happen stances because people aren't moving so much and they're not doing that transport and like invading those spaces. So in one sense, yes, but then you also have companies where it comes to that point of profit. You have companies that say, oh yes, we managed to reduce our emissions this year. But let alone the only reason they could reduce their carbon emissions and cut down and reach their goals was because of the pandemic. Had there not been a pandemic, it still would have been business as usual. And currently we're going back to that business as usual. This approach of like us going back, we're like returning to normal. We're not returning to a better normal. And by returning to normal, we're just going to do even more harm than good. If we talk about some sort of the policies and more of the international space, there's a lot of discussions on developing countries should still be allowed to develop and do these emissions. But that begs the question, well, South Africa is one of the top 12, I think, worst emitters in the world currently. But they kind of, in the international space, they're like, no, but our onus to take climate action isn't that much because, I mean, historically, we haven't committed that many bad things. So it's kind of a fine line for us to walk and for us to lobby for. Yes, we should be allowed to develop, but should we allow that development to still have like this take what I want capitalist way of thinking and kind of keep doing that process, but right now we're not getting there. So yes and no. I think we're not changing the system. So it made some minor impact, but our carbon emissions and our CO2 levels, I can't remember the exact counts, but I know it's like 400 and something parts per million of carbon in the air. And with that, the higher we get, the closer we're getting to an irreversible point of temperature change. And if we go beyond that, we're like superseding or going past the Paris Agreement and any international agreement we've made to protect the environment. It's not like it's null and void because we haven't achieved what we set out to do. So by us going back to normal, we're saying no.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me hear what you have to say, Celiwe. You want to come in there?
I think Tyler has covered, most of my points, but I would say that for me, I feel like countries were going through a lot during the lockdown. So are the people, and yes, I also did see the pictures of elephants returning, and there are birds in Central Park. Oh, this is happening. And it was like that was cool to see and watch. But I think at that time was that um during a pandemic nobody was trying to achieve much, and as Tyler's covered, businesses were only saying, oh yeah, we lowered it. It's like, no, you didn't have much going on. But I think for a country like South Africa, people did lose a lot during the lockdown, and unfortunately, issues of climate change weren't basically at the top of everyone's mind, or but what I could say is that it did give everyone an awakening. I think it's the awakening that we did need in the international community, whether it's local, communities that rely on sustainable farming also did, see, it just gave everyone an awakening from, across all areas, whether it's in science, even now in the environment, the environmental, the UN, when it gave out this declaration of restoration, it then spoke to a lot of things that were also lost during lockdown, that everyone is trying to recover from and restore from. And I think the climate then becomes one, and everyone is now forced to actually work harder to achieve the SDGs. And I think if I could just touch on that, is that this restoration can actually, because they both say the deadline is 2030. I think the good thing is that the restoration then can basically help us achieve the SDGs, because what this restoration means, it means that it protects it. It also improves the livelihoods of people who depend on them. So it promotes good health as well, well-being, zero hunger, life below sea and on land. So there are other ways that we can always work around stuff. And I think that's also what we try and do at Youth at Science, to see what other things can we link them to, like even now in the process of our YCAP, we're looking at, the principles that we can have, like pillars for our YCAP. And we're thinking, no, there are certain things that we can link them together, fight them, at one goal. So I think that's what restoration then does. You shouldn't see them as individual things, but you can see them as, working together to achieve one goal. Restoration can help SDGs. So just find the links of how, we can use restoration to achieve some of our SDGs. Yeah.
But also, I think restoration is a process. Hey, it's not going to be a one-day thing. I think my next question will go on how you spoke a lot about collaboration, and you also spoke about how as a country we have so many issues that are going on, and all of these issues are critical. They're critical. And how do we find balance to ensure that we are able to achieve all of our sustainable goals, and also ensuring that people are educated about this? Because I'm thinking as a viewer who really doesn't know much about the climate change, I don't know, I do not know much about the environment. And here I am hearing and listening to you right now, and I'm going, oh, wow, I didn't know that was such a big issue. But then how do I access such information that can help me to educate myself about the environment and about my daily living? When I look at the question that has been posed by one of our viewers is, when you remember very well, a lot of people praised how clean the environment was during the lockdown. There was a lot of conversations around how the air was even different, how the skies were even bluer. It was kind of an amazing thing to hear, even though we were in so much crisis. So how do we take what we learned during lockdown and bring it back to life now, in terms of keeping the streets clean, in terms of ensuring that the sky is bluer? How do we put that into practice now?
I think I'll go ahead.
Okay. Oh.
I'll start answering that one. So to kind of bring it back to also what ecosystems are, and we relate it to people, is there's a whole bunch of different ecosystems. And if you think of everyone has a different relationship. So say I live in a suburb, I know that I have trees, I have a natural park space and a reserve space in the area surrounding me. But then if I go further up the N7 or up the bit of the west coast of the Western Cape, I'm going to come across farmlands. I'm also going to come across different types of environments. Then we also have like different mountain regions. We've got lakes, we've got rivers. To the left, you've got oceans if you're going up north. So we've got a huge diversity of different things. And I think in order to get people to take action and get into the space, is they have to realize that not all solutions are one size fits all. So that's also where it comes, if we bring in the argument about COVID. The biggest thing that made, us mitigating COVID a reality is behavioral change. And without that behavioral change, and a lot of people were really resistant to those changes, like wearing a mask, like, why must I wear a mask? Those things are fast. That's kind of based on people not relying on science. And I think there's a lack of efficient scientific communication. But if I relate that kind of scientific communication back to something in the climate change space, there's this document written by scientists called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, their special report. And now one of the documents had, it was a 1,000-page document detailing what actions we need to take, where they need to be taken, how can we actually achieve these climate change goals of like limiting global temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius. Now, in the document, there's so many solutions, but what the media kind of put out was, no, cows are bad. So they're kind of targeting individuals to change their behavior, when in reality, it's not only individual change that's going to create the change and what we need to see happen. I think we put a lot, and a lot of people talk about, yes, you as an individual, you must stop buying plastic straws. Yes, you must definitely stop buying plastic straws or supporting the plastic industry. There's a whole lot of different things you can do as an individual. As one person, you can do so much. As a whole group of people, we can do that much more. But the biggest action we're going to see taken is through corporations and through the business model. Right now, they're kind of sticking with what they're used to, which is, okay, I'm going to use plastic, I'm going to use excess resources because I can, and because I'm still making my profit. People are still coming to me because I'm supplying that good, and like it's still working for them. And they're not going to change their behavior unless we change our behavior. But also in the South African, or change our buying behavior. But also in the South African context, if we bring it back down, you have like an elite upper class, and then you have people living off less than like probably 10 Rand a day. You have this huge diversity. So you kind of can't say to some people, well, you have to change your behavior. You have to buy at a better, you should buy at a better store. You should buy vegan goods. You should buy plastic-free goods, because I mean, the reality is not every person or majority of South Africans can't actually afford that. So we need to start kind of putting pressure and using the behavior. We should change our behavior, but we also need to put pressure on government and to instill the policies that put pressure on business, but we also ourselves need to put that pressure on business, perhaps not necessarily through our buying power, although that's the biggest vote we have for business and industry. We do kind of need to lobby them, attack them on social media, and kind of meet them where they're at. There's also, I know of some groups that what they do is that you can join, you can buy shares in like a company like Sasol or Eskom or something, and then with having shares, you're invited to the AGM. So what people are doing then is they're going to these AGMs and kind of blocking everything, voting against all the bad policies these companies are trying to do. So that's one way to go about it. But going back to what I was talking about earlier, is that there's so many different contexts in or different environmental ecosystems in the country, that it's really to find your space and where your community needs you. Like I know in my community, they've recently discovered that one of these grassy areas is actually like a place where renosterfeld, which is a type of fynbos, used to grow. So now they're kind of trying to preserve that area. They've cornered it off. No one's allowed to go walk on there. No one's allowed to mow the grass. No one's allowed to pick flowers, trying to encourage that ecosystem, that micro ecosystem to recover. So I think it's not about, okay, we need to only replant trees, we only need to do this. You have to realize that in your context, what can you do? Say you're in a city, or we know in townships, there's often not many green spaces. Well, how can we make these spaces greener? Or planting trees, but then we also want to think, okay, how do we make these trees useful to the people? Well, then we plant edible trees that produce edible products, or like citrus fruits and that sort of stuff. And then we also have to think about, well, I've got, or if you think about Cape Town and the recent fires, I think that's a good example to highlight about ecosystem restoration, is the fire was a massive event. Now that ecosystem needs to recover. And while fynbos is used to dealing with fire and needs fire, there's a whole lot going on there, but basically there's also a lot of invasive species that have taken over the natural landscape. So if we get involved in projects that help reduce invasive species and replant endemic native species, I think that's definitely one step further, but also realizing that you don't have to do everything. By doing a few things and encouraging your neighbors and the people that can do it, you're doing a lot more than, say, the person behind you. Yeah, but I think over to Celiwe if she wants to add there.
Thank you so much, Taylor. I think you've given us a broader perspective in terms of looking at South Africa. We have different environments, and not one solution is going to fit into everyone or every province or every aspect. You know, we kind of really need to think on how, as we solve the environmental problems, through solving the environmental problems, there could be another problem that we could be solving. So just interlinking certain issues sometimes could actually assist us as a country to really be able to solve certain problems that we are facing. So I think you put it really, really well in terms of that. We are almost near our end, and I just want to throw something over to Celiwe here. And I think, Celiwe, you and I had a discussion about this when you spoke about what is this action plan. You know, I feel like Taylor has just spoken about how we need to have policies that speak holistically to the people living in South Africa. I think I'm really, really interested to know what the Youth and Climate Action Plan is all about, and what's the dream, what's the goal? I mean, and also, how long have you been at this? Because I can imagine it requires persistence, you know? So Celiwe, I'd like you to just give us a brief overview on YCAP.
Yeah, no, thank you. So the YCAP is it's the only project I'm currently busy with, but it is keeping me on my toes together with school. So last year in August 2020, we started a process with the city of Joburg, and we basically went to them and be like, you guys have your climate action plan coming up. We would also like to have a chapter on the, on the city we want to stay in as young people. And the city of Joburg was like, come along, you guys, sit down and, and draft this. And then so we drafted the Johannesburg Youth Climate Action Plan. And, it was launched yesterday. We were at the launch, and the mayor signed it off, which was something big because we co-authored that document. And after that, we were thinking, okay, so we have now envisioned the city we want to stay in, and we know that we want to stay in a climate just and equitable city that will basically involve that will involve everyone once moving to a sustainable society. So we envisioned that and we wrote that down. It took us forever, but finally it was done and it was launched yesterday. And part of the implementation then was like, we have done this for the city of Joburg. What can we then do for and involved other young people? Because in the process, we involved university students, high school students that stay in the city of Joburg. And then now the National Youth Climate Action Plan that we currently doing at Witwatersrand, that me and Tala are project leads for with other amazing young people that are watching virtually, hopefully. What we decided to do basically was to involve young people from universities all over South Africa, TVET colleges. We have grassroots organizations, representatives that are part of this process. And what we are trying to do basically is to envision the South Africa we would like to stay in. So it stands on, certain principles. So just to take you back, our Joburg YCAP stands on the principles of intersectionality, systematic change, accessibility and sustainability. Those are just a few, leadership and governance, all right? And then that's what we're also trying to do. So that was a pilot project, and we have seen that it's working. It's gonna work in the city of Joburg. We already have implementation activities ahead of that because we want to write policies that are implementable, and that has been the problem in South Africa. A lot of your policies are good on paper, but you can't implement them. And with the Joburg YCAP, be rest assured that it's definitely something we can implement in the city of Joburg, which is why we have now then moved nationally. But this process is still taking place. So if there are young people that are watching, just to answer your previous question of what can you do, you're really interested in this, you really want to be a part of this. I think we take from what's the youth age? I think we do take from high school, I think 16 to 25-year-olds can join in and be part of the process. It doesn't matter whether you're in school or out of school. We want young people to, speak on issues that affect them, because climate change, I must say that it's going to affect people differently, right? Due to our socioeconomic, statuses and situations. Some people are at a better advantage than others, and which is why then, and people have different experiences with the land. Hence, I speak about the relationship from men to women. I mean, from men to nature, sorry. So which is why it's very important to have everyone included in our YCAP process, to basically envision the South Africa we want to stay in. And we're currently working on the principles that we want our national YCAP to stand on, and which is why this is an invite to young people in South Africa who want to be a part of this, that this is the right time to be making history, because I must add, this is South Africa's first ever youth climate action plan. So we really, really, really need everyone to be involved, to do this with us, so that we can, achieve what we want to achieve, because it's very important. I think another thing that, I didn't add in the beginning was that the reason, the World Environmental Day is hosted by Pakistan this year has a lot to speak about, when the community in Pakistan, especially women, took a stand and started planting trees and started saying that, hey, our sons will leave us, but our trees will never leave us. So they started planting trees and protecting trees. So it then speaks that today they're hosting this amazing event because women in local communities took a stance and were like, we're going to plant more trees. And this is why we also want to do this. We, as young people, taking a stand and saying, we want to basically, be part of creating a climate action plan that is climate orientated, that is by young people, for young people, for the betterment of South Africa, especially in helping it achieve its NDCs, its sustainable development goals, and other climate goals that we have. So we also want to work with a lot of stakeholders, and most especially young people. So this is a call for young people to join in the process and be part of making history.
Thank you so much, Celiwe. I think what one of our viewers who's watching us on Facebook says that it's so reassuring when we see young people being in the forefront of pushing change. I mean, a rumor has it, or should I say research has it, that this is a new era. It's a new 100 years, and every 100 years something like this has to happen. So I think it's all about, as young people, identifying what is our stand and what is our mandate as the youth of 2021. Yes, the 1976 has done their own part. I think it's time for us to also question ourselves that in the new 100 years, what are we going to do as young people? I think that is really amazing. Taylor, I do have some questions from our viewers today. So one of them is asking, the smog has been very bad in Johannesburg lately. Why is that?
Sure, that's something I don't think I know how to answer.
She's not a joker.
But yeah, I don't know. Celiwe, maybe do you have some insight?
Yeah, so it's because the world is dying. That's why. The winters are getting colder, the summers are getting even more hotter, and days are getting shorter. A lot of things are happening, and this is small stuff. Hey, I think the climate clock says we have 10 years, less than 10 years. I think it's 8. I think I saw it yesterday. I looked at it. I was actually doing some research and I saw it's 8 years. We have 8 years left. That's what scientists are telling us. I actually believe it. And it's because now we're seeing it. I'm from Soweto, right? And thing is, I think in Soweto, the reason why people don't associate such things to climate change it's because nobody, like, they don't care. I mean, we don't have the immediate impacts and effects of climate change until it's winter and everyone is like, this winter is colder, it's colder than last year's winter, or oh, this winter is going to be very much cold. And it's like, why is that? I think that's the reason. I think that's how people need to look at it. So why our summer's getting so hot? I think last year alone, even this year, we were having, this is the highest recorded temperature in history, and it's just been going on like that for years now. It's just like we're just gonna break a record about the highest day, the hottest day on earth, the hottest day in Joburg, hottest day in South Africa. And those are all the effects of the climate changing and Mother Nature basically screaming and crying so that you guys can give her some attention. The joke about what Tyler was saying, that during lockdown, a lot of things are happening. People started seeing clear skies and they were like, oh, we want to be out there, we want to do that, the planet's so beautiful. And the planet was basically telling you guys that it's going to kick you out, it's going to kick you out, and it can live without you. And which is why I'm saying that there is the relationship between nature and men. And when I say men, I'm just using just men, not men and women. Let me just say
We get you, girl. We get you. We understand you.
The relationship between human beings and nature shouldn't be one of domination, and I'm currently busy with my research, looking at genderizing climate policies, right? And part of it, I'm using an ecofeminist perspective that basically speaks on how men, now I'm just talking about men, have, dominated women and nature, and then women and nature have a link, they have this spiritual relationship that ecofeminism explains beautifully. Hence woman, hence Mother Nature, hence women have, such a close relationship with the land because they work on it, right? Looking at all the different movements and things that women are doing in their communities when it comes to climate mitigation and adaptation. It then speaks to the fact that human beings have a relationship with, the environment, and it shouldn't be one of oppression. And that's what we've been doing for over the past centuries. We've been dominating the earth because even in the Bible, we were told to kill, slaughter the animals, eat the plants. This is what you have. But we've taken it way too far. We've taken it way too far, and people basically need to come back because nature can survive without you, but you can't survive without nature. You can't survive without the environment. That's just sad. And you saw it lockdown, it happened.
Mother Nature is angry. So one of the last question, just 1 minute. I think you might actually also quote on some of the words that you've just said. Andrew says he read an article about the V&A waterfront. The waters are looking like Seychelles. What has caused this?
Oh, the Seychelles. Tyler's in Cape Town. She can answer that.
I'm not quite sure. I haven't come across that because last time I interacted with what's happening in the Cape Town ocean space is that I know there was quite a severe die off. I don't know if there's a better word to explain it, of a whole bunch of animals. I know so they washed up on shore, all these different fish. And I think in my mind, I relate that to that rising temperature. For a couple of weeks, there was this much higher ocean temperature than what would be expected at this time of year with the current. So I think relating to that, but also the last thing that I did see was that there was a whole bunch of, we've got the killer whales basically living around the greater Cape Town area between False Bay and Table Bay. And I don't think it was them specifically, but we also obviously, the ocean's a very diverse place. So what I think I'd read is that the whales had kind of herded the fish into the V&A waterfront. And then what I read is that there's a whole bunch of them dying. And I know that the waterfront, there's the Two Oceans Aquarium. They basically had to shut down their supply because now there were so many fish in this small space that they were using up all the oxygen, and they were kind of slowly dying because now they also need, we don't think about it, but there's oxygen in water. So that was what I heard. I think that's interesting, something I need to go read up on about them looking more like the Seychelles, but I know there's also oil spills and stuff. So I think that's just something you don't want.
No, thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. It is exactly 12 o'clock here in Johannesburg, and it's still freezing cold, Taylor. But thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. And I think I want to give a big thank you to our CEO, Neil Barker, for actually giving us the space to have these discussions. I mean, one of the most beautiful things that we always want to do is to have conversations around issues that matter and issues that affect people. And I think today has been an amazing day. And hopefully all of our viewers as well can attest to that. You guys are amazing, and the work that you do is amazing. I'm giving you 30 seconds, ladies. What are your last words? Starting with you, Taylor.
I'm gonna take it because Tyler and I just get a lot sometimes. So final last words, please follow youth at Saya on Instagram and youth_Saya on Twitter to just know about the work that we do, and if you also want to get involved. And I think what I can say is that you need to better your relationship with the environment. You need to do better because we only have 8 years left. You need to learn up more about what's happening. You need to learn up more about the changes. You need to learn up more about why there's a smog in Joburg currently, why the waters in the VNA are turning like, the water in the Seychelles. So those are some of the things that when you see them, you need to learn up on them. And young people are going to do great work. I just want you guys to be on the lookout about the work that we're currently doing at Youth at Saya, and follow us on our social media pages and get involved. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Just to add in my thoughts, I think thank you so much for Celiwe for highlighting that. And I think this conversation, if this was your first time joining in and hearing about these concepts, is to definitely not end there. To definitely, if you follow, you can even on social media, you can follow hashtags. I think that's a great way to get good information. I know Twitter and Facebook have also added a feature that filters out or adds in that this information is disputed. So you can get quite accurate information, even off social media. It's just about changing who you follow. And through changing who you follow, you kind of get that information. You see ways you can get involved, the ways you can take action, and the ways you can further your research. So I think thanks for having us for this and letting us introduce people if they haven't been introduced before. Even if you did know something, I hope you learned a lot about what we're doing as young people and why we're fighting and taking the stand we are.
Thank you so much, Taylor Booth. Thank you so much, Celiwe. And thank you so much to all of our technical support guys that are behind the scenes, helping us make sure that this live is amazing. Thank you so much to our social media team at Oracle Media as well for ensuring that everyone knew about this event. And thank you to all of our designers that made us look good in our posters. Ladies and gentlemen, there is more conversations to come. Please tune in at Oracle Media Facebook page. Follow us and make sure that you keep up to date with the conversations. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely day and a lovely weekend. And also have a beautiful environmental day tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.